everybody, welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I'm here to talk about a topic that I have talked about before, but it recently kind of reared its head back up again with the announcement of Moon Knight. Now, it was brought up briefly when Moon Knight was first announced, but it kind of died down because, you know, Moon Knight was announced almost 7-8 months ago, so it kind of died down, and like it was kind of not really brought up again. Kind of reared its head a bit when talking about Deadpool, but other than that, like no one really talked about it. You know, reared its head a little bit, like I said, reared its head a little bit talking about Deadpool, but no one really talked about it. And that is that the MCU will not have R-rated content. And I don't know why people can't wrap their minds around this and understand these things. There's a simple and easy answer for that. It's financially. It's financially. Because while some people will go in my comment section and some people will say, well, the Joker made $1 billion and Deadpool made a whole bunch of money, those movies are the exception, not the rule. In the last few years, people have to understand, in the last 12 years, only 4, if even that, like horror movies, like rated R horror movies, have made anywhere in the 700 million range. 3 of them are comic book movies. So you have to understand, like, it's not a common thing. It's not as common. These R-rated comic book movies are more likely to be not a success than a success. Just go ask Birds of Prey. And the thing is, what happened with Birds of Prey? Birds of Prey would have broken even. It would have made probably over $300-something million if it wasn't R-rated. It would have made over $300-something million. It would have gotten a sequel greenlit. It wouldn't be in limbo where the studios are having a hard time justifying greenlighting a sequel because it technically didn't make any money in the box office. It made all its money on VOD, on home video release, which is not what you want to do. You want to make money. You want to make money at the theaters and then make money on VOD, and then it comes together. But it didn't make any money in VOD. In fact, technically, it was in the hole when it left theaters. It was like $10-20 million in the hole when it left theaters. It made it up on VOD. It made a profit, but that was later. So that is more likely the thing that happens. That's why when you usually see a rated R comic book movie, it's piled down. There's a reason that the Joker was so cheap, and it wasn't completely because like the vision of the guy making it. Yeah, sure, the vision of the person making it was why it was kind of piled down too. But for the most part, it was piled down because it was a rated R movie, and they didn't want to put too much money into that because you know how much you're gonna get back. Best case scenario, sorry about the noise. There's cars and stuff going by. But best case scenario, DC was looking at about $500 million, $600 million, something like that. Like, that's what they thought they were going to get. Best case scenario, they're going to get that. Maybe $500 million. Maybe $500 million. And that's why they had the budget so low, because most of the time these movies don't make that kind of money. Hell, even Deadpool technically didn't make as much as Deadpool 1. They re-released it and put out Once Upon a Deadpool, and they kind of add those things up. And so when you go and check it, they added those things together to make it made more than the first Deadpool. But it didn't know its initial release. So even that kind of shows that the rated R thing is a hindrance. You're not going to make $2.8 billion with a rated R movie. I don't think people understand this. And you know me. I say this all the time. I hope people actually listen to my videos and don't just look at the thumbnail. I hate bad business. And making rated R content in the MCU is a bad idea because you isolate the biggest fan base, you isolate the biggest, some of the biggest fans of your product, which are the kids. And I know it's not a cool thing to talk about. It's not. No YouTuber wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk about this. But the kids are the reason that the MCU is as massive as it is. Not the comic book fans, not the critics, the children, kids, me. When the MCU started, I was just starting off. I was barely in. I think MCU started in 2008. I wasn't even in high school yet. I grew up with the MCU. Most of us grew up. A lot of people my age grew up with the MCU. The MCU grabbed the kids. They grabbed the kids and they didn't let them go. And the kids grew up and they brought people along with them, and you grabbed people more and more people came on board. But that's the first part the MCU did. They grabbed the kids. And if you make stuff, when you start making parts of the MCU rated R, you can't have them watching it. Or at least you can't just free willingly have them watching it. Sure, like some people say, well, Deadpool, they're gonna be kids who sneak in to see it anyways. But that's a tiny thing. But the kids who sneak in to see Deadpool and whatnot are very small. Are very small in comparison. I'm telling you right now, Endgame would have lost about $200 million at least. It still would have made over $2 billion, I believe, because how big it was. It would have lost some change. It would have lost some change. It would have lost $200, $300 million if it was rated R. That's just a point blank period. There are kids who can't go see it. And there are parents who will not go let their kids go see this movie. For every super nerd who people who follow me, or super nerds like me who's like, fuck all that, I'll go see it. Ben Gaming came out during COVID. I went to see that shit day one. I don't give a rat's ass how many people were in that theater. So, you know, that's just how it is. But for every person like me or you, there are so many other people who care about that stuff and who aren't going to let their kid go see this movie. And then it starts hindering the MCU, because then parents start going, I have to sit here and pick and choose what movie I can let my kid go see and what movie I want to go see. And the whole thing with Disney Plus, and so many people saying that, oh, maybe Disney Plus should have more mature content, that the parental setting. The whole point of Disney Plus, and I don't know why people don't understand this. I don't know why people can't wrap their minds around this. People just, they know what they want. They want this thing, and they don't start thinking logically. The whole point of Disney Plus was to have a place where everyone can, where you can let your kid go wild on this one streaming app and not have to worry about anything that he's watching. You don't have to put the parental guidelines up there, because everything on there, the worst thing that happens on there is hints to sex or hints to bloody violence. You know what I mean? You don't have to do all that stuff. No, there are parental settings on there for things, for super hardcore parents, but for the most part, you can just let your kid watch whatever the hell he wants on Disney Plus and never have to worry about it. You know that Disney Plus is a place where you can gather around as a family and have movie night and watch some family thing, some Disney family thing. Like, that's what Disney Plus is for. Disney Plus is for families. They're for families and kids. For families and kids. And they have stuff for the nerds. They have The Mandalorian, which I reviewed. They have the WandaVision and multiple Marvel shows. They have all the Marvel shows. They have all Star Wars stuff. But, generally speaking, it's for them. It's not for us. It's not for the super duper hardcore nerds. We're like, they got some stuff for us. They got stuff for us, but it ain't for us. But it's not, the whole thing's not for us. It's for kids and for families. That's why they're not gonna make Moon Knight R-rated. Like, I see some people on channels that I respect going, man, if they had some balls, they'd make Moon Knight. They're not gonna do that. And like, look, this last bit is something I'm gonna just talk with you guys about. I think the only way you're going to get the Marvel R-rated stuff is if they create an entirely different separate label, an entirely separate, not division, but like subdivision that's not connected to the MCU at all. Then maybe you can get your R-rated stuff. But do you really want Blade and Ghost Rider and the Punisher and some of these characters not to be in the MCU? Because that's what it means. If you have to make a decision. And I want people to comment below. Make a decision right here and now. You can't have it both ways, so don't even bitch about it. You can't have it both ways. Do you want Punisher, Ghost Rider, and Moon Knight and characters of that nature to be in the MCU, or do you want them to not be? Because that's the decision you're making if you want it to be R-rated. If you want it to be R-rated and super hardcore, I respect that. I understand that. And in many ways, you might be correct in that notion. But I have always personally believed that most things don't, like, you're doing it, if you can't creatively get around violence, then you're not doing it correctly. Because, I mean, in many ways, like, I keep bringing up the Dark Knight movie. I had a lot of complaints. One of the videos I made on here was complaining about the Dark Knight movie. But the thing I never complained about is the tone. Think about it. That movie is PG-13. And at no point in that movie does it... Just think about the Dark Knight. At no point in that movie do you feel like it's childish. Do you feel like it's PG-13. Do you? I mean, he murders a man with a pencil, for crying out loud. And nothing, you know, he does so many violent things, so many deaths, so many horrible deaths happen in that movie. Beat a man, like all these things happen in that movie, but nothing is inherently bloody, gory, or over the top. Which kind of leads me to believe that you can do Moon Knight PG-13. You can do a lot of this stuff PG-13. You can do Ghost Rider PG-13. You can most of these characters can be done PG-13. Now maybe you can be more true to the the spirit of the character by making it R. It surely did help out Logan that it was R, but that was after many years of seeing Wolverine being PG-13, and no one really be complaining about that because it was still a good performance. I mean, Wolverine was doing all that stuff. Did you just not believe he was killing people? My point is, the notion that like something has to be R-rated for you to be able to take it seriously or maturely, that is very stupid and very short-sighted and very naive. And if you think that all these shows have to be R-rated so that they can be mature, so that they can be taken seriously, then I can't really talk to you, because it's just, like I said, it's so close-minded. It's so close-minded and it's so simple-minded that it's just like, that doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, when you have examples like The Dark Knight, when you have examples like I said, like Wolverine, when you have so many examples of it and there's so many ways to do it, even Blade, I've kind of come around on that. Because when you sit back and look at the Wesley Snipes movies, I'm looking at it, I'm like, you could easily take out, other than the blood rave, a lot of the blood stuff you could take out, especially since when he kills the vampires, they turn to ash. I mean, it's nothing for him to just have the vampires biting people and you hear the sound effects and cut the camera away. It's nothing to have Blade when he shoots him and kills them, they just turn to ash. Who knows what angle they're going to take on this. But overall, last thing I'm going to say to everyone, comment below. Do you want rated R characters in their own isolated world, or do you want them in the MCU? Because that's the choice you gotta have to make here, people. Do you want Blade, Ghost Rider, Punisher in the MCU, or do you want them in their own isolated R-rated universe? Because you can't have both. Marvel is all about, Disney is all about definitive branding. They do not want to mix the well up. They do not want to confuse people. That's why that's half the reason they're consolidating. They do not want to confuse people. This is what this is. No confusion. We don't want you to think that this is in the MCU. We don't want you to think that this is something else. This is what this is. That's how they work. Definitive branding. So if it's in the MCU, it's PG. If it's not, maybe it's not. And to be fair, Mandalorian kind of showed they can push it up to PG-14, so maybe they'll just do Moon Knight PG-14, and it kind of allows a little bit of a gap there to do a little bit more wiggle room, do a little bit more violent things. But they've done violent things in the MCU before. I mean, crying out loud, Thanos got decapitated in front of millions of kids across the world. So, I mean, they can do violent things. Like I said, there's ways and tricks to do it without having to make it R-rated. Nothing really, no comic book, no superhero comic book really has to be R-rated unless you want it to be R-rated. So thank you guys for joining the Come Get Movie Show. Please comment below. Please remember to like, subscribe, and tell me, do you want those characters to be R-rated in their own world or in the MCU? Because that is your only real choice. Thank you guys for joining the Come Get Movie Show again. I'll see you in the next one.